Hey, In2Picklers. This video we're going to work on two things. We're going to work on getting returns deep, and the second thing we're going to work on is on giving yourself as big a margin of error as feasible in the situation. In other words, what we're going to try and do is get you in a position where you're returning deep, but allowing for margins both on the sides and the out of bounds and the net in order to avoid errors on the return of serve. So let's get into it. Really important in pickleball in every shot to have an appropriate margin of error, but I want to focus on the return of serve right now. What you want to do with the return of serve is the first thing you want to do is you want to take the net out of play. You do not want the net to be in play when you hit a return of serve, meaning you want to give yourself a nice margin of error when you hit your return of serve so that you never hit the net on a return of serve. Nice margin of error in a pickleball situation would probably be about 12 to 18 inches is a good range. When I say a 12 to 18 inch margin of error, I'm not saying you have to aim for that spot. What I'm saying though is this is the lowest you ever want your shot to go. On a return of serve, from a deep serve to a deep return, your shot might be 3, 4, 5 feet over the net. That's perfectly fine. 12 to 18 inches would be a minimum number. In other words, that's the floor you wanna have for your margin of error. You never want to see your balls going under 12 inches for sure, and probably under 18 inches on a return of serve. There's simply no reason for that, particularly not at the 4.0 doubles level.
Prepared a couple of graphs to help you visualize what I'm talking about. The first graph will show you basically a regular return, 2, 3, 4 feet over the net is perfect. That way you have a nice margin. The second slide shows you that there's really a minimum that you should have of 12 to 18 inches. That's why I put it red there. You really don't want to get under 12 to 18 inches on your return of serve in a doubles match. There's simply no reason to do that and to tempt the ball to go into the net. And then the last slide is to show you a drill you can do where you can extend a rope over the net. Then you can drill over that with your returns of serve. You can use the same drill to do serves to make sure you have a good margin on your serves and your returns of serve, and that'll help you develop good habits on your returns of serves and your serves so you avoid the net. You can go to www.in2pickle.com to download a copy of this last slide so you have it with you when you go out and practice.
The other way that you can commit an error on the return of serve is obviously hitting the ball out. The serve team has to wait for the ball to bounce, so you're never going to have an opportunity for them to hit an out ball. So like, in a rally, sometimes you'll take a shot at a player and they'll hit the ball and the ball is going out and you got bailed out. On a returner serve, you're not going to get bailed out because the serve team has to let the ball bounce before they hit it. So if it's out, it's going to land out. The first thing you want to do is you want to aim towards the middle of the court. So you want to aim starting from the middle line. You want to be maximum 5 feet on either side of it. That gives you about halfway in between each of the service boxes. You want to aim towards the middle line on every return of serve. That's perfectly fine. Aim to the middle line on every return of serve and you'll never hit the ball wide. Now, to avoid going long, you want your target to be about 3 to 4 feet in, depending on how accurate you are. While 4 foot may seem like a pretty good distance in, it'll give you a nice big cushion so you never hit a ball out. And if you hit the ball high enough, so if you hit the ball, say like 3 or 4 foot over the net, and it lands 4 foot in, it's going to be plenty deep to keep the serve team back, and that's your objective. If you miss a foot or so or 2 feet in, it's not the end of the world. It's 6 feet this way. But if you miss 2 feet that way, that's deeper and that's great, but it'll never go out. From the net to the baseline is 22 feet. So if you go 4 feet in as your target, you're hitting 18 feet back from the net. Remember, they're not going to hit the ball directly off the bounce anyway. So if you hit the ball every time 4 feet in, you're hitting it 18 feet from the net, which is 11 feet from the no volley zone line. That's where it's going to land. Usually after the ball crests, they're going to be at least a couple, 2, 3 feet behind. So they're going to be probably at the baseline or a little bit behind the baseline, which is what you want. I'm going to put up a graph in a minute to show you so you can visualize the target on the return or serve. I'll box it out so you can kind of get a better feel for what I'm talking about in terms of your box or where your target box is. And then I'll narrow it down to a tighter box. You can play with these numbers some. 3 feet I'd be okay with. But just understand that you're reducing your margin of error, and every time you reduce your margin of error, by definition, you're increasing the chances that you're going to commit an unforced error on that shot.
Here's another set of illustrations to help you visualize the target that you're aiming for when you hit a return of serve. What you'll see is that obviously it's much wider than it is deep because of the fact that on a return of serve, you don't have to worry about the out of bounds if you aim towards the middle. So what we've done is basically gone 10 feet wide, 4 foot deep on the box, roughly 4 foot from the baseline. Should give you a nice area to work in. In this slide, I've illustrated the additional protection you have from the orange section being your target. Then you have that kind of dark orange or reddish section that shows you the additional margin that you have by aiming for this target every time. And then the last slide will show you where you can put the cones when you drill so you can practice your return of serve. You'll notice that in this slide, the cones are tighter than the original target area. The reason for that is that you give yourself a tighter margin to work in, and the other reason is that hitting closer to the middle generally is a better place to return than simply along the entire orange area. So that tightening it a little bit towards the middle line makes sense. So you can set the cones like in this illustration, that'll help. Again, you can go to www.in2pickle.com and download a copy of this so you have it when you practice.